This is a Hope 1032 podcast.
Warning. This episode contains mentions of suicide, which may be distressing to some listeners. I'm Georgia, and welcome to Finding Hope, the podcast that swaps out the depressing news headlines for stories of hope that won't make the front page. Each episode, we meet someone who's had a bit of a hard road, but has found hope and healing along the way. Hopefully, they inspire you to look for the good in your own life too. Episode 5. Lachlan Stevens. There's a quote by Dorothy Day which reads, "Food for the body is not enough. There must be food for the soul." I don't know about you, but burgers are one of my favourite things to eat. They're a real comfort food in my life. But I've never thought of them as anything more than that. Definitely not food for the soul, as Dorothy would say. But Lachlan Stevens is changing that narrative. He owns a bar in Wollongong called His Boy Elroy, and he's using his delicious burgers as a way to start a conversation around men's mental health. Just when I thought I couldn't love burgers more. Let's meet Lachlan and find out just how his burgers are changing the world. Well, at least his little corner of it. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Who is Lachlan Stevens?
I live down here in Wollongong. I have His Boy Elroy, our business down here as well. It's a sports burger bar right in the heart of the city, and we have owned that for around 2.5 years. So it's all gone pretty good. It's been a turbulent 2.5 years, but a great kind of opportunity for us to kind of experience and grow in the most difficult of times. Before that, I worked up in Sydney, actually, at Merlin Entertainments, or for a company called Merlin Entertainments as a head of operations. So I was in charge of Sea Life Sydney Aquarium.
The head of an aquarium? I wonder if he got private tours, or he got to feed the dugongs, or perhaps even slept in the tank one night with the fish. The nice ones, of course. I regret not asking more questions about this. Anyway, not important. I'm getting a little sidetracked.
And prior to that, I spent 6.5 years in Afghanistan, in the army, where I did 2 deployments of Afghanistan. So it's a little bit all over the place. But that's kind of life, I guess. It's the more you can experience and the more knowledge you can kind of pick up along the way helps you kind of in that next thing you're doing. So I'm glad to be here at His Boy Elroy, and more importantly, I'm glad to be throwing our kind of weight behind our mental health initiative, Barstool Brothers.
Lachlan Stevens is indeed a jack of all trades. During the interview, he admitted that before taking ownership of this sports bar, he had no idea how to make a cocktail or a burger. But one thing that the army did teach him was the importance of core values. So he developed 3 for his bar: community, authenticity, and loyalty. It underpins everything the business is, how they operate, how the staff interact with customers, and what the brand stands for. Lachlan knew that having strong values meant the rest would follow. And it did. Tell me a little bit about Barstool Brothers. You mentioned it briefly. What was the idea behind it?
When I was in the army, we can sit here for hours and talk about the issues within the veteran community related to veteran suicide. There's currently a Royal Commission into veteran suicide happening now, and a lot of that is spurred on by people's experiences within the theatre of war, whether that be Iraq or Afghanistan, to name the most recent conflicts. And I obviously transitioned out of the Defence Force, and for a period there, I felt kind of lost. I didn't have that kind of brotherhood, that mateship, which underpins my experience within the Defence Force. And I kind of wanted that. But also, on the other hand, just talking to the customers that would come into His Boy Elroy, we do burgers, beer and sports. So it kind of naturally caters towards men 20 to 50 years old. And we wanted to put a kind of framework in place to support that community. We know it's an issue within the community more broadly, men's mental health. And the issues with men not talking, but also we noticed through the values that we created amongst our staff, we were able to kind of authentically connect with our customers. And that often led to us having conversations with some customers about how their day's going or their week's going and their mental health challenges. And it kind of naturally progressed into us running or setting up Barstool Brothers. It's a men's mental health initiative. It's basically a social club. So on a monthly basis, we get together at His Boy Elroy. We put on burgers and one beer. And it's an opportunity for men to come and meet each other, build relationships. Those relationships are then solidified through golf, trivia, weekly walks, number of non-alcoholic events as well to kind of make sure it's balanced. Our whole goal is to build those relationships to a point where we're comfortable with talking to each other if that situation ever arose where we were in crisis or we just needed someone to lend an ear to. And we've also linked in to educational providers. The mental health movement. Dan Hunt is an ex St George Illawarra player, and he kind of identifies quite well within our core demographic, and he provides educational outcomes to the members within our group and also our staff.
Barstool Brothers is the blueprint of playing to your strengths. Lachlan saw a need, but he used his existing business and customers to build something new, something better, for a community whose mental health often gets overlooked.
For men, generally speaking, they don't want to sit around in what would be classified as a therapy session. It's important to kind of understand that that's intimidating for a lot of men to go to an AA meeting, for example, and sit around in a circle and talk about their issues. We try not to stress that. We view it as a funnel approach. So at the top of the funnel, where it's at its widest, is just sports, burgers, and a beer. It's not confronting in the slightest. In fact, men would look at it and go, geez, that's just a normal catch up with the boys. When they're in store, our staff can talk to them. They're being trained in mental health first aid and ask them kind of build relationships with them first, but ask them questions second about how they're feeling and know where to go after that. Then recommend them towards Barstool Brothers, which we've got information in store referencing that organisation. It goes down into this funnel where we can then channel people to where they need that help. So it's a low impact kind of approach to getting people within into our organisation where they don't feel intimidated, and building relationships through sport and social activities, and then hitting them with that educational aspect or those avenues to get clinical support.
It's important to note, I think, that men generally rely on that face-to-face social interaction to stay connected, something which COVID lockdown has made near impossible. Yet, Barstool Brothers has continued to evolve and offer a hand where they can.
I don't like Zoom calls, to be perfectly honest.
I think if there was a single sentence to sum up the last year and a half, that would be it, Lachlan.
And it has been challenging. But also, on the other side, it's sometimes a lot less confrontational for a lot of people, and they feel safe in their own environment. So it is an opportunity in a sense. So we've done two things through lockdown, through Barstool Brothers. One, weekly or twice weekly Zoom catch-ups with the members within Barstool Brothers. We also run Facebook Live, where we team up with the mental health movement and provide a Q&A type session, and probably the biggest thing that we've done is we run free burgers each night to any member that needs that social connection from a physical sense, obviously doing it safely in respect to COVID, but dropping off a burger at their house, saying g'day, interacting with them, having that kind of human connection, and asking them how they're doing. And that kind of small part in their long day can mean so much to them. And so I've seen kind of a huge uptick in the member requests for the group and the interaction within the page. It's indicative of the situation we're in and the stresses that lockdowns cause for individuals, whether that be substance abuse issues, whether it issues from a relationship perspective, the fear of the unknown, loss of income. It's all these types of compounding issues which we try and provide that circuit breaker for.
Sometimes that's all we need. A circuit breaker in the form of a burger and a g'day from a mate. But Lachlan believes the secret to the success of Barstool Brothers lies far beyond the food and small talk.
It's because we don't shy away from kind of who we are. And I'll go on to explain it a little bit, because you say Barstool Brothers, people kind of associate the negative kind of alcohol and mental health issues and how they're intrinsically linked. Yes, that is the case. I'm not arguing it. But we've built a culture at our bar which encourages responsible consumption of alcohol. I think kind of owning who we are and saying, yes, we can responsibly have 1 or 2 beers while we're talking about the issues we're having at home, and building that culture which is so grounded in this idea of loyalty, authenticity and community. People don't abuse it, or people don't come into the group trying to push their own agendas or a negative culture. We need to kind of maintain a grip on the direction of Barstool Brothers and ensure it has the outcomes of the members at the forefront.
And the culture of Barstool Brothers certainly has achieved that. Beyond new friendships, connection and a free burger or two, Barstool Brothers has helped people get their lives back on track.
We've had one guy who's doing a Zoom and telling his story. James, his wife, unfortunately had a miscarriage of 2 twins several months ago. He joined Barstool Brothers, found connection with the other members, found connection with me. I consider him a mate. The first lockdown happened in 2020. He was out of work. We opened up another store during lockdown, and we employed him and gave him a means to kind of support his family, and gave him a little bit more purpose. And he's actively involved within the Barstool community at more of a leadership perspective. He's also got somewhere to come to vent or to talk about any issues he's having. He's an inspiration to me and a lot of other Barstool brothers, but that's one of many stories that we've been told. So it's incredibly heartwarming to think in the moment that it's not a big deal, but it might mean something considerably more to the person you're delivering that burger to or having that conversation with.
Lachlan is right. You just don't know how important kind words, a listening ear, or indeed a free burger can be in the moment. And to those struggling, wanting to reach out, Lachlan had some advice as well.
Find the people that you trust to talk to, whether that be your family. And it's not only trust, which is important. It's someone who has non-judgmental ears. The person you go to talk to, it's absolutely important. The person you go to talk to can't offer you solutions. They just have to offer you an ear. You certainly do need to go and seek a clinical help along the way or at some point. But the first step is just to speak to someone you trust, make sure they're not judgmental, have that person to offload a little bit on if you're feeling kind of that pent up kind of stress and frustration or anxiety. The next step's obviously to look at educational resources, call Lifeline, link in with your GP and get that clinical support that you might need.
How are you changed now? How has Barstool Brothers and His Boy Elroy changed who you are as a person?
Oh, this is a tough one, because you don't notice change it's not instantaneous. It's over a period. I think kind of Barstool Brothers and His Boy Elroy has just given me a lot more perspective and a lot more appreciation to people's situations, and I don't know how it's changed me from a bigger perspective. I just feel like I'm growing. I just can't define kind of how I've grown, if that makes sense. That's a difficult question.
Oh, that's a great answer. I love that. Well, Lachlan, it has been a genuine honour. Thank you so much for joining me on Finding Hope and sharing all about Barstool Brothers. I think it's really fantastic what you're doing down the Illawarra community.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Georgia.
Thank you to Lachlan Stevens for sharing about the wonderful work of the Barstool Brothers. If you're a guy in the Illawarra area or you know someone who might benefit from this group, the information for the Facebook group of the Barstool Brothers is in the show notes. And if you're ever in Wollongong, be sure to pop by Lachlan's bar, His Boy Elroy, for some great burgers. If this episode affected you in some way and you need someone to talk to, Lifeline is available on 13 11 14. And if you or someone you know has a story of hope to share and you'd like to be interviewed for the podcast, I would love to hear from you. You can leave a comment on the Finding Hope page at hopepodcasts.com.au. And if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe to get future episodes in your feed and tell a friend about it as well. You can also leave a review on whatever platform you're listening from and tell us what you love about the podcast. Next week, we'll be meeting a scientist inspiring Indigenous kids in remote communities across Australia. It's a story that you won't want to miss. I'm Georgia, and thank you for listening to this episode of Finding Hope. I'll leave you with this. James chapter 1, verse 19. Know this, my beloved brothers. Let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. Catch you next time.
This is a Hope 1032 production. Thanks for listening.